Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In today's episode, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between Iran, the United States of America, and Israel. Now, I want to jump right into a really phenomenal feat that has occurred in this conflict. Now, if we look at air-to-air engagements that have occurred throughout history, we have not had a great track record within the last 20 years or so, 30 years, of significant air-to-air combat. We saw a little bit of that take place in the U.S. versus Iraq, especially early on, especially in the 90s, and then finally culminating into the early 2000s that led to the American conquest of Iraq. And then we also, in the 80s, had the opportunity to observe the United Kingdom versus the Argentine Air Force, in which British Harrier jump jets were able to defeat essentially the entire Argentine Air Force. So very, very interesting. I'm not sure if that conflict resulted in an ace, meaning 5 combat jets being shot down. But in this conflict between Iran, the United States, Israel, you would think, in terms of approaching ace status, maybe we would see maybe an Israeli pilot, right? I mean, we saw some of those in the 73 war. I mean, I think most people, if we were taking odds kind of going into this conflict, we would say, well, maybe the Israelis, maybe a U.S. pilot would achieve ace status. Well, that's not the case. The pilot right now in this conflict that is very fast approaching ace status is a Kuwaiti pilot. Yep, a Kuwaiti pilot operating a F-A-18C. Now, this isn't even a Super Hornet, guys. This isn't like he's piloting the most advanced Super Hornet F-A-18. No, he's not piloting an F-22, an F-35. I mean, he's not even piloting a more advanced F-15 Strike Eagle, right? However, with that being said, this Kuwaiti pilot has had the opportunity to shoot down 3 aircraft thus far. So we have a Kuwaiti Air Force pilot that has shot down 3 aircraft. Now, he shoots two more aircraft down, and he will be an ace. Now, there's a little bit of a problem with these statistics in terms of how the Kuwaiti Air Force pilot was able to shoot down three aircraft in this conflict. The problem with this is that he shot down 3 aircraft that were on his team. Shot down 3 American F-15 Strike Eagles. Launched 3 missiles. In all 3 missiles, 100% kill probability in terms of that engagement. 3 missiles, 3 aircraft brought down. Now, as of yet, you would think they would be broadcasting that information. The defense contractor who produces those missile systems would probably be saying, hey, look at us. Look at this. This missile shot down 3 aircraft. He launched 3 missiles and hit 3 aircraft. But that's not being done, obviously. And the reason is, obviously, because this was an incredibly horrible mishap that could have possibly been much worse had those American pilots been killed in that engagement. But yep, the 3 aircraft that were brought down, the 3 F-15 Strike Eagles, were brought down by a single Kuwaiti FA-18C firing 3 guided air-to-air missiles. Now, we don't know if these were heat-seeking or longer-range radar-guided AMRAAMs. We just don't know at this point. Obviously, we'll eventually find out in the after-action report when and hopefully if that eventually comes out. But again, right now, the single best air-to-air pilot in this conflict is a FA-18C piloted by a Kuwaiti Air Force pilot that has shot down 3 F-15 Strike Eagles. I have to wonder what's happening in the background on that in terms of how he is. Well, you know what? Let's just not go into that. It really doesn't serve any purpose. But there you have it. There you have it. It's a fact. The Kuwaiti Air Force will probably have its first ace before the end of this conflict if they allow that pilot back up into the air. He's probably a high-ranking prince, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I'm going to leave that one alone. Back to the ongoing conflict. Obviously, it continues. Now, I wanted to delve into the idea. One of the main concepts behind this conflict is the fact that the big concern for the United States and the big concern for Israel is the probability that Iran would achieve the ability to launch a nuclear weapon. There's a lot of concern that Iran would be allowed, or not necessarily allowed, they on their own innovation would enter the nuclear weapons realm. Now, who else has nuclear weapons? Who has nuclear weapons? Obviously, the United States, the Russian Federation, China, France, the United Kingdom, Israel. South Africa was a nuclear power when the Dutch and the white Europeans controlled that nation state prior to letting the sub-Saharan Africans come into power. Those nuclear weapons were then removed. Also, obviously, Pakistan is a nuclear power, and then again, and obviously the newest kid on the block, so to speak, is North Korea. Now, Iran. Let's just compare and contrast Iran and North Korea, and I think this is important to really compare and contrast, right? So the question is how soon could Iran get a nuclear weapon? Is Iran fully investing all its capabilities into getting a nuclear weapon? Now, again, we know North Korea probably, in all probability, has a dozen, if not more, nuclear weapons. And they have tested multiple nuclear weapons. Some have been good tests, some have been not so good tests. But nonetheless, North Korea does have a nuclear capability. Now, let's look at the Iranian economy. The Iranian economy prior to what's happening right now, the economy, the GDP, the gross domestic product, was about $475 billion, yes, billion dollars. They were ranked about number 34th in all the economies of the world. Now, North Korea, the North Korean economy, generated about 34.9, let's just say $35 billion. So on one hand, you have North Korea, $35 billion economy. And then over here in Iran, you have an economy of about $475 billion economy. That's about 10 times the size of the GDP of North Korea. The per capita income is about $5,190 versus North Korea of about $1,000. Now, let's look at the Iranian infrastructure in terms of scientists and let's just say it, highly intelligent folks that have the ability to do research on nuclear weapons. And we would have to reasonably assume that would be a fact that the Iranian capability in terms of having, let's say, just more intelligent, more educated people in the country that could do nuclear research is much greater than that of North Korea. So you have this massive capability in terms of both financial and intellectual, in terms of Iran versus North Korea. And that economy, in terms of scale, one would have to reasonably believe that, and look, how long have we been talking about Iran possibly getting a nuclear weapon? I mean, it has been decades, right? I mean, we'd have to go back to the 90s, in which I think we were talking about the possibility of Iran doing research on a nuclear weapon. So I think any reasonable person, if we compare and contrast North Korea versus Iran, and we say, okay, both Korea and Iran, both on an equal footing, are pursuing nuclear weapons, who do you think would get a nuclear weapon first if they really wanted a nuclear weapon, right? Who would that be? And I think the overwhelming majority would say, well, obviously it would be Iran. I mean, they have more money, they have more scientists. It would be Iran. But that's not what happened. North Korea got into the nuclear club before Iran. It's just a fact. So the question is, just based on that, right? North Korea, Iran, and their endeavors for a nuclear weapon, who got there first? North Korea did, not Iran. Who really wanted a nuclear weapon? And does Iran really want to get into the nuclear club? Do they really? And if so, if they really did, if they really did, wouldn't it be reasonable to assume that they would have got there before North Korea? And the population, too. I think you have to look at the population of North Korea, which I think is in the 20 millions versus, 90 million in Iran? So just a massive, much more larger population as well. Much larger economy, 10 times bigger, more scientists, and a more population to pull from. Inherently, if you have 90 million people, and this country over here has 20 million, because of that population difference, you're going to see more intelligent people in that pool of persons they are able to grab from. So again, larger economy, larger in terms of population, and then larger scientific pools to pull from as well. So again, logic, and I'm just being the voice of reason here, would dictate that Iran, if it really wanted to get into the nuclear club, should have and could have beat North Korea in terms of getting into that nuclear realm. And on top of that, it shares a border with Pakistan. I mean, they're obviously they're not the best of buds, but nonetheless, Pakistan has a nuclear weapon, and again, obviously Pakistan really wanted a nuclear weapon, and they were able to achieve that. So again, one would think that if they really had wanted to achieve a nuclear status, Iran would have been able to do that, but they haven't, and that's kind of where we sit. So now, is Iran a military threat to its neighbors? Right? Again, I'm just comparing and contrasting here, and trying to connect the dots and just asking questions. That's all. Again, I mean, do I have a game in this fight? Obviously, I'm a citizen of one of the nation states who are at war with Iran right now. But again, I'm just asking questions. Is Iran a threat to its neighbors? Could, let's say, Iran invade Iraq? Could Iran successfully invade Iraq? Maybe, but would it want to? I mean, it effectively, in some areas, controls large parts of Iraq. And I think Iran would have a very much of a difficult time controlling parts of the Sunni Triangle in Iraq, the Sunni majority areas of Iraq. So, again, I don't think Iraq is something Iran really wants at this point. So I don't think, in terms of a threat to its neighbor, we would say that Iran is a threat to Iraq. And let's say, hypothetically, if Iran did invade Iraq, it is of an almost certainty that through the efforts and support of Saudi Arabia, the United States, and possibly other nation states, that invasion could be pushed back. Okay? Now let's move up. We're going to just kind of go from Iraq clockwise. Turkey. Is Iran a threat to Turkey? No. Turkey would clean Iran's clock. The Turkish military is very powerful. Iran is not a threat to Turkey. Armenia. Is Iran a threat to Armenia? No, they have fairly close relations right now, both economic and a simmering rivalry with Azerbaijan. So no, Iran is not a threat to Armenia. Is Iran a threat to Azerbaijan? Maybe. I mean, could we ever see a conflict occurring? Possibly. We have seen some border skirmishes. There is an Azeri population that is in the majority in northwestern Iran. But again, that scenario in terms of a Iranian invasion of Azerbaijan has been and still continues to be obviously pretty remote at this time. So we would just say, no, Iran is not a threat to Azerbaijan. Turkmenistan. Is Iran a threat to Turkmenistan? Are we going to see an Iranian invasion of Turkmenistan? Probably not. We haven't really seen any historical precedents of this until we go back maybe before Christ, when we observed a greater Persian Empire. But right now, is Iran a military threat to launching an all-out invasion and seizing control of Turkmenistan? Probably not. Back around, coming up to Afghanistan. Is Iran a threat to Afghanistan? And I'll just answer this with two words. Who cares? Great. Have it. Take it. It's yours. Have fun with it, by the way. And we won't stick too long on that. And then finally, Pakistan. Is Iran a threat to Pakistan? Is Iran going to move forces in and take control of Sunni majority Pakistan, one of the largest Muslim nations on the planet that has nuclear weapons? No. One word. No. All right. Who else is Iran a threat to? Is it a threat to Israel? Maybe. Hey, I mean, in terms of a threat by destabilizing through the use of proxy forces in areas such as the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and to I would say a greater extent, Lebanon. Maybe, but are we going to see a successful military operation by Iran that jeopardizes the existence of Israel? Are we going to see a capability shown by Iran to move vast numbers of troops and aircraft and threaten the Israeli military? And the answer to that is no. Categorically, no. That is not going to happen. Okay? So then the question that right now I think many people are asking at this point, I mean, outside of the realm of the uninformed urbanite, is why is this conflict taking place? Why is this conflict taking place? Well, again, we'll circle back to my original premise, which is might makes right. The United States and Israel are attacking Iran because it can. Because it can. There was to a certain extent, a factor that in the past, going back maybe over a year ago, just over a year ago, that deterred Israel and the United States from attacking Iran. Within the last year, that deterrence has gone away. That deterrence has gone away. When you lose deterrence against an armed neighbor, and that armed neighbor does not like you, there's a high probability you are going to be militarily defeated. And this is just humanity at its core, right? This is just the way it is. I mean, again, North Korea. Would North Korea look different if they did not have nuclear weapons and this massive military that backed the regime? Maybe, maybe not. You have to look at what's happening right now in other places. You have to look at the European and the NATO intervention on behalf or in a destabilizing influence in the Ukraine, right? If Russia was completely removed from the Ukraine and Russia lost deterrence, what do you think would happen next? Do you think it's possible we would see the breakup of the Russian Federation? If the Russians did not have that vast nuclear arsenal, what would happen? I'm just asking questions, right? Same with China. Same with Taiwan and China. Deterrence. China has not attacked Taiwan as of yet because of deterrence. China wants Taiwan. China wants both the island for the strategic implications, and it also wants the massive tech sector that exists inside of Iran. I'm sorry, Taiwan. If Taiwan had the economy of Madagascar, I don't think China would really care about Taiwan. But Taiwan is a very prosperous, wealthy country, and the Chinese believe they own that nation state or should own that nation state, and the only thing that prevents China from attacking Taiwan is deterrence, is a capable military. It's the only thing that does. It's the only thing that prevents or has prevented the Arab world from destroying the state of Israel. I mean, they've tried it a couple times. And the reason they don't try it now is deterrence. Israel has deterrence. And if you don't have a deterrence and you lose deterrence, you're probably going to get preyed upon. It's just the way humanity is. So yes, we are continuing to watch the conflict Again, things are not boding well right now for the Iranians in terms of the within the military sphere. We have seen most recently at least one, possibly two, U.S. subsurface vessels attack and destroy two different Iranian, possibly a frigate. Well, we know a frigate, and then possibly another corvette was attacked and possibly sunk by a U.S. subsurface vessel as well. And again, I've talked about this before as well. The U.S. subsurface fleet is really something that is just not discussed in military circles, and is one of the most powerful elements of the U.S. military that is not rivaled, or not even close to being rivaled, by any nation state on the planet. I think the Soviets back in the early 80s may have through quantity and to some extent a bit of quality, but where we're at now, given the pause in terms of research and development that we have seen, I'm talking about the post and pre-Soviet collapse in terms of how the American subsurface fleet continued to expand and advance. Again, it is a force that is unrivaled on the planet by probably many times. I would say at this point, the U.S. subsurface fleet, meaning its attack boats, its nuclear boats, submarines, are vastly more advanced than any nation state on the planet at this point. And again, it's something that tends to be very much overlooked within the military analytical services and as such. So anyway, that does it for today. We're going to continue to watch what is happening on the ground and mostly, for the most part, in the air. Is it possible that we could see some sort of ground operation by the U.S. military? That hasn't really been discussed, and for the most part tends to be brushed off. But I will say this: there definitely is a capability for the U.S. military to launch a ground operation. And the way that would look, it would not be a ground operation like you would think, right? I think most people believe that if the United States would enter Iran, you would probably see a movement of forces through southern Iraq or Kuwait into southern Iran. That's probably not what you would see, okay? That's not the way a ground operation against Iran would look like. A ground operation against Iran would, in all probability, be very much focused on U.S. amphibious and airborne assets seizing control of islands in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I can't get into this too much, but I can tell you that capability is present, and that capability could be used. We'll have more on this later, but this is something we're watching as well. So more to come very, very soon. As always, have a good day.